Krishnamurti, an Indian philosopher, often posed a question that seems deceptively simple. Who is the mind talking to? At first glance, it feels like just another question about our inner lives. But if you sit with it long enough, the layers begin to peel back, revealing something deeper. We live with a constant sense of self, this I that feels real, that believes it's thinking, feeling, and acting through life. It's the one who feels joy, sorrow, confusion, and clarity. We take it for granted, thinking it's a solid, unchanging essence at the center of our experiences. But Krishnamurti argued that this self is an illusion, a product of thought. So basically, he's suggesting that this constant identification with I is no more than a collection of thoughts that we mistake for reality. The mind weaves a story, pulls together past memories, fleeting emotions and desires, and creates a separate self around them. This self feels substantial, even though it is, at its core, empty. What's even more intriguing is that the mind, once it creates this self, continues to converse with it. But who is the mind talking to? The mind, Krishnamurti observed, is in a constant loop, talking to itself. Thought arises, then another thought seems to respond to it, and so it goes. We may feel like we're having an internal dialogue, but the truth is, the mind is just playing a game of ping pong with itself. There's no separate entity behind the thoughts, no listener, no you sitting there, observing. The mind creates the illusion of a dialogue, a conversation, but it's simply thought, reacting to thought. The thinker is the thought. The observer is the observed. In one sentence, Krishnamurti flips the typical narrative. We often think that there's a thinker who is separate from the thoughts, someone sitting behind the wheel guiding the process. But Krishnamurti points out that this thinker doesn't exist. There's only thought happening, and the thinker is a creation of those thoughts. What is left then? When we strip away the illusion of the thinker, the observer, the awareness, it's always been there, watching the mind at work, yet we tend to overlook it. This awareness is not a thought or an emotion. It is simply the presence in which thoughts and feelings arise and fall away. As Krishnamurti put it, awareness is not the reaction of thought. Awareness is the observing of thought. The observer, the awareness, remains unchanged, even as the world of thoughts shifts and fluctuates. This creates a strange situation. While the mind is endlessly busy creating and responding to thoughts, the real you is simply the space in which all of it happens. Krishnamurti urged us to step back, to recognize the difference between thought and awareness. Thought is transient. It's tied to the past, to what we think we know. Awareness is timeless, always present, and entirely unaffected by the content of thought. The mind, in its habitual nature, wants to be free from itself. It complains of the noise, the endless chatter, the lack of peace. The mind wants to be free, but the mind is what is imprisoning us. It's an ironic twist. The very thing that seeks liberation, the mind, is the one keeping us trapped in the illusion of separation. The mind wants freedom, but it's only through seeing the illusion of the I that we can actually be free. By asking ourselves, who's the mind talking to? We begin to see that this I is just a thought, a fleeting creation that the mind clings to, but it is not the truth of who we are. The question itself is a kind of invitation, an opportunity to observe the process of thought without being caught up in it. If you ask, who is the mind talking to, and pause, you might notice that there's no real answer. The question itself dissolves the illusion of the self the mind keeps trying to maintain. It's as if, by asking this simple question, you shine a light on the emptiness behind the mental chatter. The mind's chatter, once it's seen for what it is, becomes much less intimidating. It's no longer the tyrant that defines who we are. Instead, it becomes like background noise, something we can notice without needing to engage with it. It's all just thought, passing, momentary and without substance. And in the space between the thoughts, there is a stillness, a peace that is unshaken by the mind's endless stories. Krishnamurti's told us to stop identifying with the endless stream of thought and to begin to recognize that the true self is not the thinker, but the awareness in which thinking takes place. There's a quiet freedom in this recognition. Freedom from the need to control the mind. Freedom from the compulsion to be someone or something. You begin to see that the I is not something you need to defend or protect, because it was never as solid as you thought.